This is Scale Her Up, the podcast for female-led businesses ready to grow to seven figures and beyond. I'm Dr. Brenda Hector, business coach and champion for women in business, on a mission to change the stats and help more women scale successfully. Each week, we share real stories, tools, and tactics to help you build a business that supports the life you want. Follow the show and come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community. You don't have to do this on your own. And today I am delighted to welcome Jasmin Corbett, who is the owner of Wealthy You Health Coach business. Jasmin, thank you very much for joining me on the show.
You're so welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
So, start at the beginning. Wealthy You Health Coach. Tell me if it's not really obvious. What do you do in your business?
So I specialize in helping women with their gut health. Particularly, I feel like the women that I help them or that I enjoy helping the most are the women who remind me of me, basically, when I kind of started this journey. They're driven, they're ambitious, they're hardworking to their own detriment sometimes. They're maybe a little bit stressed, a little bit overwhelmed, and through combinations of multiple different things, perhaps their energy is maybe feeling a little bit low, their guts maybe feeling a little bit off, they're maybe experiencing different sorts of symptoms, like IBS type symptoms. And so I love getting in amongst people's heads, basically, and kind of figuring out what the big picture is, because I think that's something that we don't often do. We don't look at ourselves from a holistic perspective, like mind, body, soul. All of that needs to be in alignment in order for us to achieve true great health and well-being. And if we just focus on the physical, or if we just focus on the emotional or whatever, like without taking it all into consideration, then we're really missing such a big part of the story, and missing out on so many valuable information to see, okay, where do we need to go with this? What do we need to look at in order for you to heal as an individual?
So, what's your skill set then? So, you discussed the holistic there. Are you a nutritionist, or what's the?
So my qualification is in health coaching.
Mhm.
So we do, like, in my kind of program, how I work, we look at 5 different pillars, which would include nutrition, movement, stress management, sleep, and mindset.
Nutrition, movement,
Yeah. Stress
stress,
management,
sleep,
sleep, and mindset.
and mindset. Okay. And I guess you can get amazing results. You can change somebody's life, I would imagine, by getting those 5 sorted out.
And that's the thing. That's what we're looking for, is like transformation. We're not just here to play small. We're not just here to, I don't know, just feel a little bit better. Like my goal when I work with a client as well, like their success is my success. So I really want to give them as much information and knowledge and tools as I can, is within my capabilities and within my skill set and my knowledge, so that they can start to put all of those things in practice, and they can have those things in their tool belt to understand themselves a little bit better, and to really know what it feels like to feel great, to thrive, to wake up with energy, to feel happy, to feel like you've got that bit of bounce in your step again. Perhaps to find a new purpose, or change your job, or do something that you've been putting off for years, or do something that you never in your wildest dreams anticipated that you'd be able to do. Like, these are the moments for me, like when a client jumps in a call and they tell me something about that, or even after we've finished working together and they'll send me a little update message. Like, that's why I do what I do. Like, that is what just kind of keeps that fire burning in my soul.
So, how long do you said after you finished working with a client, how long do you typically work with them?
It really depends. I tailor make my programs to fit the individual. I don't use a kind of cookie cutter approach. And so everyone is different. Typically, I would be looking to work with somebody for about a year,
Okay.
to really get kind of habits broken, new habits established. But it's different for everyone. It depends their starting point, their end point, their goals, what they're working towards, like the speed of progress, what else is going on in their life, and how much time they have, and what, like, really. we look at everything. So everybody is different.
Fantastic. So tell me about starting your own business then. What inspired you to strike out on your own?
So this is definitely not a career that I ever anticipated. It's not something that I thought was like a route. I didn't even know such a thing existed as a health coach at the time. I was actually a chartered accountant. I worked in practice and I worked in oil and gas. Really enjoyed what I was doing, really liked the company that I was working for, loved the team that I was working with and the work. And then I knew I didn't want to be an employee forever. I'd kind of grown up in a very entrepreneurial environment and I wanted to be my own boss and choose my own hours and do all these things that I suppose as business owners we aspire to. We see all of the shiny, glittery, good bits of it without really taking it all into consideration. But those are the things I really wanted. And I love to travel. So I wanted location freedom as well. And I started getting into property investing actually. And that was in my head, that was my right, I'm going to replace my income through property, through rental incomes, through like getting the cash flow from that. I'm just going to keep building and building and building my portfolio until I can leave work. So I started doing that. But then in the meantime, I actually got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at 29, just on the cusp of 30. And that really had a profound impact. It completely changed the course of my life. It changed everything about my life for the better. It's definitely something that I can look back on. And at the time, like getting the diagnosis, I thought that it was life changing, but in such a negative way. And I was just hearing the prognosis of like, okay, well, you're a runner, you're a hiker, you're at the gym, this active person. Like, there's a time limit on that now. Like, that's not something that's going to be part of your future forever. You're going to be looking at pain management for the rest of your life. You're going to be on meds. You might get to that point where your joints start to lock up and we need to operate and do these things. And these things were such a big part of my identity that I think that is what hurt me the most, actually getting that diagnosis. And it was probably what gave me the driver that I needed to be like, well, no, like I'm just not accepting that. And so I started doing more and more research into what I could do. Like, what can I control in this situation? What can I try and improve? Again, like I grew up in that environment where things were a bit more holistic and we looked at alternative medicines and it was all about that. So I think that gave me a bit of a basis to be like, no, okay, there has to be something else. And the more that I was kind of deep diving and ending up down all of these different rabbit holes, the more I was learning. And I was like, okay, why didn't I know this before? Right. Next thing, why didn't I know this before? Oh, this makes me feel good. Why wasn't I doing this before? This is like so basic. It's so obvious. And I realized that there was a big gap there missing in how we're educated and how we grow up in I'm gonna just say Scotland because that's obviously where I grew up. And so I know. And then I obviously I wanted to start sharing all of this epiphanies that I was having and all of that. I'm an enlightened soul now. Like I know so much good things that I want to share with everybody. And then eventually my dad and my family were like, okay, you're nagging us now. Like we don't care about the sugar that's in this juice. We don't care about that. And I was like, okay, I need to pull this back a little bit. And I got myself into remission with the rheumatoid arthritis. And then that's when I started looking at the route of like, okay, I want to help people that want the help, not just be giving unsolicited advice to anyone that would listen. And so I went just kind of again on another deep dive to see like, right, okay, I'm a chartered accountant, right? I've got so many certificates. I've had to do so many exams to get to this point in my life. And so it was like, I need the certificate to prove I've got this knowledge. I need to go through school. So I was looking into different courses for nutrition. And then I came across health coaching and everything that I was like learning about it. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is the thing that I want to do. So I signed up with a school down in London. And I think I'm really lucky with how everything kind of transpired and the series of events that unfolded because I got the diagnosis right before COVID, like right before. So while I was waiting for my like specialist appointments to come through, we went into lockdown. Everything got cancelled, everything got pushed back. So it gave me that time to do what I could and start seeing the results from it before I got to that point of like, okay, now we're seeing you. Now you're like, this is the medication that we're going to give you. And I didn't know at that point or I wouldn't have known what my options were. So I'm
You think you
blessed
would,
with
if you'd have had that appointment, you would have just been put on meds and you wouldn't have had the option to deal with it in a more natural way?
exactly. And I would have and I also would have been in a position where I wouldn't have known there was an alternative option.
Mm.
And that's what I think is most special is that I had that time to be able to figure that out and to learn it. And I remember actually, I digress a little bit, but I remember going into the last appointment with the specialist I had. And I was like, oh, like I've changed this and I'm eating this now and I've done this and this and this. And we were going through my results and she was like, oh, but that's got nothing to do with this. I was like, what do you mean it's got nothing to do with this? And she was like, it's just like, it's a coincidence. Like you've just changed those things and you've just miraculously got better. Like your results are now showing like coming in good. And I was like, okay, sure. Right. Thanks. Bye. So yeah, then I had like, obviously again, being COVID, I had the time to like with work, we'd been put on to reduced hours. So I had a little bit more time to study. I was able to do that part time. I could do it online, which wasn't really offered before. So everything just happened for me at the right time.
So then you got the qualification, and I guess there aren't so many employed roles as a health coach, are there?
It's actually not something that I've ever even looked at is to see if there was any employed roles. Like I said, I had always kind of known that I wanted to start my own business. And then this just started making sense. I started like as part of the course, you had to work, like you had to do case studies, you had to work with clients of like on a kind of student basis. And so I was doing that. And then I was like, no, I really like I really enjoy this. So I started just doing it in my spare time. It really started as a bit of a hobby where it was like, right, friends, family, helping them out, figuring out like what my coaching kind of style was, how I was building out what I wanted to build in order to help people, and just really figuring out who I was as a coach. And then it just started getting busier and busier and busier. And then eventually, when I had like 0 minutes left in my day, I was taking calls before work. At lunchtime, I was taking calls after work. Something had to give. And
So I imagine that's going to be really common for a lot of people, that they start up something as a side hustle and it gets to a point where they can't do both.
yeah,
So I assume you left.
I did. I left. I was going to say unfortunately, but not really. But I found way more joy and way more fulfillment from like helping clients, seeing them smile, seeing them have some breakthroughs than I did from preparing some management accounts and figures for the board and all of that. As much as that did really interest me and I did really enjoy it, it just wasn't as fulfilling.
So here you are. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought you'd frozen there for a second. Yeah. So what were the challenges? What was, because we know it's not all an easy road. What's been difficult for you?
In building the business,
Mm-hmm.
one of the challenges that I would say I came across, one of the first challenges was definitely not something that I had anticipated or expected, but going from working in a team to working on my own, not having people to call if something went wrong, not having an IT department, not having a colleague to say, I don't know the answer to this, like, can you help me out? Not having a manager to kind of just be there, I suppose, as a support, not having somebody to call me like, so what are you making for dinner tonight? Or like just to spin around at your desk and just have those types of conversations. I started to find it super lonely. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just figuring this out as I go. Like, I don't know any of these things and I don't have anyone to ask.
So what did you do?
I joined a networking group for young entrepreneurs. And I'll continually say this, but it was one of the best business decisions that I still have ever made because we met once a week and it just started as a small group. Now it's huge. but it was just a small group of us. We would jump on a call. We would talk about what we're experiencing, what our blockers are. Let's help each other through it. And there was such a sense of belonging in that. And they covered different themes for different weeks, covered different topics. Could have been something from like marketing, from how to write a post, or it could have been anything business related. And I found that so helpful. And just having like that group WhatsApp to be like, okay, I'm having this issue. Has anybody came across that before? And even being in different industries, I realized that as business owners, we all face the same challenges. And so it worked. It didn't matter if I was a health coach and somebody else was building websites. The problems were still the same. And the
Yeah.
ability to help each other was there. And that was so helpful.
That's a brilliant piece of advice to anyone who's done that, suddenly went, oh, wait a minute, I'm on my own here. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not something, well, it's definitely not something I anticipated. I didn't I work quite well alone. Like I enjoyed my own company, but it was like, oh, now it's like this all the time now. And like, yeah, you're talking to clients on calls and you have that, but it's not that it's not conversation, if that makes sense. It's coaching.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. And yeah, I missed it. I missed the people.
So, other than the fact that it's lonely and you weren't expecting it, what else have you learned on your journey building your business?
Oh Lord, I have learned so many skills. Again, I never anticipated that I would need, like how to write short form content, how to write a blog, how to post a blog, how to record a podcast, how to edit a podcast, how to like all of these extra bits. And even as an accountant, and this makes me laugh a little bit sometimes, but even as an accountant, and I worked in practice, with so many different businesses, I still like when it came to doing my own, I was like, oh yeah, like I need to do that. Oh yeah, I should be tracking that number like a year in. I should have been tracking that a long time ago. Even recently, I was working with a coach and he asked me something about some number and I was like, I've never tracked that. Didn't even occur to me.
Do you know, I'm sure that's making a lot of people feel better knowing that even somebody who was a qualified accountant didn't think to certain things around the numbers in the business. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
no shame in not having a
Absolutely
handle
not.
on all the numbers. Yeah.
Absolutely not. But yeah, you have to learn so many skills. I think one of the most important skills that you have to learn is also how you switch hats. And I mean, like, you have to be good, like, you have to learn sales. You have to be a salesperson. You have to be a marketer. You have to be the CEO. You have to be the coach. Like, you have to be the client relationship manager. You have to be all of these things. You have to be the accountant. But actually, learning, and this was something that was useful for me, was actually saying, like, right, okay, right. This morning, I've got on this hat and I'm doing these tasks. And in the afternoon, I've got calls. So I'm wearing my coach hat and I'm doing that. I'm not trying to like, if I've got 15 minutes between calls, okay, right, let's write a post. Let's invite the marketer in, or let's go and do some numbers. Like I'm wearing the hat more consciously. I'm being more dedicated and more purposeful, intentional with my time rather than just trying to do everything in amongst each other, because that it doesn't really work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a business coach, I would totally agree with you there. Yeah. So, who's been your biggest supporter on your journey?
Oh, oh my God, I've got there's so many people just came to mind, and I'm so grateful for the support networks that do have around me. And I've been quite intentional with building that. Like, I've worked with many different coaches who have all served like humongous purpose for me. My dad has been an amazing support since the start. Like, I think to begin with, he didn't really quite understand this whole concept of coaching and working online. And I'd be sat at my phone, like I'd be sat at the kitchen table, maybe like working away on my phone. And he'd come in from like Grafton outside. Like he's a very like work is manual type of person. He was like, oh, like you've just been sitting in here doing nothing all day. I've actually been outside working. I'm like, I'm working right now as you talk. Like this is me working with my phone. And now he's like, he'll call me up and he'll be like, okay, how's things going with clients? Where are we at with client numbers? Like what's like, he takes an active interest and he's been a really good support. He's been a really good ear for me. Like when I have had a low point or something's gone wrong and I just need to talk to somebody, he's been a good support for me there. Yeah, like my partner too, he's been such an advocate. He's been like such a cheerleader for me. And yeah, like I could literally keep going with the list. I've had so many great people support me.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Great to hear. So, what advice would you have for another female thinking of starting something up, a side hustle maybe, and building it to where you've got to? What would you say to somebody following your footsteps?
Mm, I would say, eh, I think a piece of advice that I needed to hear before I even started was because like I said, I'm quite hardworking and I push myself. I'm quite ambitious, and sometimes I think I don't know if this sounds right, but my ambition needs to be made a little bit more realistic. So before I started, I remember having this conversation with my dad actually, and I was like, right, I have a 3-month notice to give with work. So I was like, in 3 months' time, I will have built up enough clients so that I can hand in my notice and I'll be left work in 6 months. And he was like, okay. And I was so annoyed. I was like, you don't believe in me. This is a real thing. And then actually I started working and I realized how hard it was to build up clients initially. And like whether you're a coach or just you've got some sort of product or service to sell, is I think I underestimated what was required initially to build that up and to build trust with customers and clients and to know what was expected of you. Because I also had like delusions of idealization. And I don't know if I've even used correct English there, but like I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be in control of my own hours and I can choose when I work. And yeah, that's great. You can, but then you end up working all of the hours if you're not careful because you have so much to do. My to-do list never ends. I score things out and add 5 more in its place. And so I think just being a little bit like I don't want to be like pooping on anyone's parade, but be a little bit more realistic about what you can do with your time. I definitely think like it's good to be ambitious, and it is good to be overly like ambitious as well with what you can do with the time. But for me, I let that make me think that I was failing when I wasn't moving as fast as what I thought I should be. And maybe that's the problem is how you view the work and the effort that you are putting in, seeing it for what it is, not looking at the gap, focusing on the gain and how far you go.
They say that you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
That's a great saying.
yeah. I think it's what you've just said condensed into a sentence. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another one that feels applicable here is like you often overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in a decade.
Yes.
And I think that just kind of resonates with what I'm saying too.
So, leading on from that, then, what's your long term goal? Where will Wealthy You be in 10 years' time?
So I do have an ambitious goal and I want to have made some sort of impact, big or small, on 1 million people. Whether that's through they just listened to a podcast or read a blog and took some action from it, and then that snowballed from there. Whether I work with them one on one, or whether I also would love to write a book. That is in my goals as well. So the reading the book and taking action off of that, or doing a course that I've got, whatever it is, like I would like to think that I've helped touch 1 million people and help them overcome something that they've been struggling with.
What a really lovely goal. Yeah. Clear,
But again, with the
direct.
overly
Yeah.
ambitious, perhaps, but that's what I'm working towards, and that's my mission.
Hmm. Good for you.
Right.
So if you could go back and meet your 18-year-old self,
Mm.
what advice would you give her?
Oh, that seems like such a long time ago. My 18-year-old self was also in business. I've worn many different caps and taken a lot of different career turns. So at that point, I was a beauty therapist running my own mobile business. And I would probably say expect the unexpected and roll with it. Like just kind of, I'm also, or more so before, I'm very anal, I'm very plan orientated, I'm very structured. I think that's why accounting, being an accountant kind of fit me very well. But again, perhaps a little bit too much to my own detriment, where it would really stress me out if things were deviating from the plan or if things were falling behind or if nothing, like if things were transpiring in a way that I hadn't anticipated they would transpire. I found that very stressful. So I think expect the unexpected and just kind of flow with it and see that life is happening. It's a concept I would have never grasped before, but see that life is happening for you. Everything that is with good or bad or how you like, and that comes down to your perception. But however that is unfolding and transpiring, like it is happening for you for a greater good. And it's this or something better.
I like that. And great advice, not just to your 18-year-old self, but to any of us watching or listening. So, the other thing we were going to talk about, you mentioned that you've just recently relocated internationally. How how was that? I mean, that seems like, I mean, just moved house. I moved like 2 miles down the road, and that was a massive upheaval and really impacts your ability to be focused on your work and everything. How do you relocate country and keep your business going?
So I think because it was such a long process, like it wasn't like when you sell your house, like you sell your house, you have 6 weeks typically to go
Yeah.
move, or if you're renting, you have a month. But for me, it was a year between initially applying for my visa for residency visa for Sweden to being granted it and getting here. So it was a long adjustment period, and through probably actually the year up to it was harder than the move itself. The relocation was super smooth. My partner, like when I arrived here, my partner had already got us a new apartment. He'd already fitted it out with everything we needed. Like I literally just had to turn up with a suitcase and unpack. I had to put a woman's touch on things. I had to rearrange some bits.
You just
But
heard
it
the
was
voice in my head going, oh, he provided it. He's got everything. Yeah.
Oh, when I tell you that he was like, "I've bought a sofa," I was like, "You've done what?" I was like, "What color is the sofa?" And again, this comes back to like I'm still learning, like just surrender. That's been another lesson for me too, is like to learn how to receive and to learn how to accept help and support and not just do everything on my own. So yeah, the actual movement part was easy, but I think probably that year, because there was so much unknown. There was no time frame. There was nobody that said, right, a year to the day is when you'll get your yes. And then this is what happens. This is what happens. And then whatever. There was so much uncertainty around it. We didn't know if we were going to get it. Like it wasn't guaranteed. We didn't know when it was going to come. So it's been a couple of years of moving every 6 weeks. Because of Brexit, because of the 90-day rule for the EU, I had to be out of the EU so you get 90 days every 180, but I tried to split it up. So I moved every 6 weeks. I lived in the UK, I lived in Sweden, I lived in Spain, not Spain, Austria, I lived in Italy, I stayed in Mexico for a time, but it was all been for these like short, like a month, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, move again, move again. So it's been a long time of living out of a suitcase or feeling like I was living out of a suitcase, not really being able to make plans too far in the future, always thinking about like, okay, I've got 5 weeks before I leave. I've got 2 weeks before I leave. Oh, we need to do this before I leave. Like there's so much of that was probably harder than the move itself, if that makes
But now
sense.
you can put down roots.
Now I can put down roots, and that is what I've most been excited for, is being able to say like, this is home and this is where we're creating life and this is what we can, like that's so exciting. for me to finally be at that point where I can not think about a suitcase. I don't have to think about how much longer I have left in a place. Like I can just travel, I suppose, a bit more freely. I don't have to be so structured with it and count days.
However, there's something definitely appealing about the way you've built a business that you can operate from anywhere. You're coaching online, I assume, and you can be in all of those different countries. And so there's definitely, for anybody listening that wants to be a bit nomadic, there's a business here that means that you can generate an income wherever you are. And that definitely that's quite impressive to me as well.
And I did that very intentionally because I did love to travel while I was working. And I knew that I wanted to do that. Like I'd taken a year out earlier, before, like when I initially qualified as a chartered accountant, I took some time out to really figure out like what it was like I wanted to do. Cause I was like, no, this accounting thing is not for me, but I've just put 7 years into getting this qualification. So I took a year out and I went backpacking around Asia. I landed up in New Zealand, lived there for a year. And so I really caught the bug. And I really loved the experience of traveling and learning new cultures and meeting so many interesting and so many lovely, kind people and trying all the different amazing food and all of the experiences that come with it. That I knew I wasn't quite done with that. So I was very intentional with building a business where I was working online, even if we're in the same town and we could quite easily meet up. I was like, no, it's on Zoom. So that I had that flexibility because that was my intention. Again, was to move away. I didn't also want to live in Scotland. I didn't see that as a long-term option. I did have anticipations of that my new place being a beach and somewhere warm, but I've ended up in Sweden where a couple of days ago it was minus 16. But here we are. Oh, life works in mysterious ways.
However, it is currently the middle of February, and the northeast of Scotland has had like 2, nearly 3 weeks. We've never seen the sun. So hopefully you've got the sun there in Sweden.
Yeah, I've heard it's been a bit grim, and it has been, although it's cold, it's freezing, but there's been no wind, there's been no rain. I've seen blue skies. Like, you just need to layer up and then you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna reflect on you knew what you wanted personally, and your business is there to generate that for you, which is something that we talk about a lot with our clients in Action Coach. That the business shouldn't be running your life should be running your business. It sounds like you've got it right.
Yeah, I've really tried. I really have tried.
So, Jasmine, is there anything that I should have asked you that I haven't asked? Anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
I don't think so. I think you've asked some really great questions. I really enjoyed this conversation.
So have I.
Is there anything I feel like I could say extra? It will probably come to me as soon as we end this call.
Well, I can interview you again. Yeah.
Fine.
Honestly, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story.
You're so welcome. Again, thank you very much for having me. I've really been honored and I really enjoyed this conversation.
I've enjoyed it too, and I hope you, the listeners, have enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to Scale Her Up. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and leave a review. It helps more female business owners to find us. Come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community to get support, accountability, and connection with other women who get it. And remember, only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female. I don't know what the numbers are in Sweden. And men are still 5 times more likely to scale their business beyond £1 million in turnover than women. When we start and scale our businesses to the same extent as men, we'll add 250 billion to the UK economy and create millions of jobs. Ladies, you can do it, and your business can make a massive difference.